So can you share some of your projects that you've done at Pulse Labs?
So for Conversationally, which is the panel where we pay people for their voice history, this is a recent project that I did where I designed what the dashboard would look like for users. So previously, I did have a design mentor at my startup, and he had done some initial designs that got implemented, but they were not very relevant to what was currently being shown to users, like what we were able to show. So these were his initial designs where it was focused a lot on usage metrics, like he included what podcasts or songs have you listened to recently, what are your most used skills, what are popular invocations, which is how like invocation is what you say to start Alexa or Google talking to you, and then number of like total invocations as well as point history. So we had completely deviated from like the point reward system more to a monetary, like direct money reward. And a lot of the usage metrics, like the developers had not built that in. And so the developers had put these pie charts in, and then also they had put like coming soon over different portions of the design that my mentor had developed. So they hadn't like actually implemented any of this, so it wasn't live or like useful like data to be receiving. So I wanted to just like improve what data was being shown to people about their usage, and then also focus more on like payment history, because that's the main reason people are coming to the site. So I wanted to redesign this to focus on the monetary incentive, because most people, they're coming to this website to check their payment history, whether they've gotten paid or not. They probably care most about that over usage metrics, and that's not really reflected in the design right now. So I also wanted to brainstorm different ideas for different features to include within the dashboard, within this whole user panelist experience. And so I decided to do a survey to gauge feedback or gauge interest levels on different possible features I could include. And yeah, so like the opportunity I was designing for was, can we offer value beyond usage metrics such as personal skill recommendations or teaching smart speaker owners how to make the most of their device? How can we be more transparent about payment history? So I designed a visual survey to gather feedback. I wanted to show people what the design would actually look like for these different features, and then so that like I think just showing the words in the question, they may not be able to envision what it might actually look like. So I just went ahead and like mocked up the different like widgets that I could include in the design and sent that to our current panelists, and then analyzed those responses. So I sent it to maybe like 700 people, and I capped the responses at like 120. And then the major findings from this research were that people really care most about monetary rewards more than anything else. So that kind of confirmed our hypothesis that we should keep the focus on like showing people their payment history, make that the focus of what the experience is like on web for our panelists. And then in regards to the usage metrics report, people were still interested in that, but the data that I was showing there could be improved. And so, yeah, I just figured out like different layouts, what was the key information to show, definitely iterated a bunch on the visual design. And then at this point, when I was working on this, like one of my goals at my startup is, because I don't have a design mentor, I have to be responsible for my own growth as a designer and improving my visual design skills. Because that's definitely like, that's not a strength for me. It's something that I really want to work on though. So at this, like when I was working on this project, I found the resource Refactoring UI, and I like referenced that a lot for like just like trying out the tips that they had in there. So I think like that helped me improve a lot, and I plan on like going back to that resource. I've been telling a lot of like, I just found it through design Twitter, but I've been recommending that a lot of like design students that I talk to check that out because it's really useful, I think, the tips that they give. And then yes, so in my final design, the emphasis was on payment details and making sure that their account was connected. And then at the top, highlighting some key numbers like the number of days they've been active this month, what their reward for the month is, how many sweepstake entries they have, and then the activity usage metrics report. I really had to like look at what was going to be feasible for engineers to implement because like I had very limited engineering resources on this project since it wasn't a priority, and so I had to like scope down whatever I wanted to do here by a lot. So I was very interested in making a personal skill recommendation tool for Alexa that like took in whatever their history was and made like complex but complex recommendations. Like technically it would be very complex, but I had to like scope that down a lot and ended up just being able just putting a list of recommended Alexa skills because like the amount of engineering work that this was supposed to take, like it was very limited since it wasn't a priority at my startup. So this project was really great for learning how business constraints and limited engineering resources can influence how your design ends up. Like you really have to take into account. So because this project had a lot of like business constraints and engineering also, like I had limited engineering resources, I had to scope down the project a lot and do whatever was going to be feasible given whatever resources I had. So it was a great project to learn how to design for constraints.